The sound you hear is what some experts claim to be a Bigfoot scream. Recorded in the state of Washington by a group of campers in 1971, it is regarded as the highest quality audio of the creature ever captured.
Hello, welcome to Bigfoot Real Encounters. We're glad to have you stop by. We'd also like to take this time to invite you to share your encounter. You can send your stories to the email bfrealencounters@mail.com, where we will feature your story with all of the respect that it deserves. So send your stories in, bfrealencounters@mail.com. We look forward to hearing from you and your great stories soon. Hello everybody, welcome to Bigfoot Real Encounters. This is your host Chris. I'd like to welcome back all of our returning viewers as well as our new viewers. Thanks for clicking on this video. This is one of the few safe places to share your encounters of forest creatures that scare the tar out of us. And for many, many decades, perhaps centuries, people just don't believe it when you tell them. Well, things are changing. People are believing it now. Thanks to the internet and people's ability to post their encounters onto websites, and then other people being interested in reading it and saying, hey, somebody else has had an encounter. And more people are becoming a little more brave, coming out of their shell and sharing their stories. Now we have television shows as well as many YouTube channels on the subject of the forest creatures, the forest people. Bigfoot, Tall Man, Hairy Man, Sabe, Sasquatch, many names that they're known by. There still is resistance to telling your stories of what happened to you on this, but on this channel you can share your eyewitness encounter without ridicule. We will believe you. You will be able to get out all of the information, all of the details. You will not be censored other than cuss words. I'm not going to repeat those, and because there are younger people and children that watch these videos, and I guess old-fashioned or whatever, I just don't want to put that on there. And it's my channel, so there you go. Other than that, I'll read your encounter word for word and detail by detail to add every bit of data and information so that we keep getting a more and more complete picture of what these beings are from all of you eyewitnesses telling us what happened. Whether or not they exist is a moot subject, because their existence has been proven by all of us eyewitnesses, as well as other studies, the Sasquatch genome study being at the forefront of this. 100 DNA samples as well as hair samples and many other things, and purely scientific study, very detailed study, and they published a report and was promptly ridiculed by government scientists. Yeah. So, but anyways, the evidence is real. It is irrefutable. So whether or not the Sasquatch exists is not the purpose of this channel. They do, and everybody knows it. Okay? It is still being denied, but this channel is here for you to have a safe place to get your eyewitness encounter out to the public, to get it off your chest, to help you, as well as to inform others so that they have an easier time of it if and when they come across these creatures. And I had a comment in the comment section of one of my past videos where somebody said that it does not matter because you cannot prepare. You will be overwhelmed with fear. And I would agree with that if we were animals, but we are not animals. We have intelligence that prepares us for this type of thing. We constantly train members of our intelligence and military to be prepared for interrogations. And you can prepare people for pain and suffering and fear that is placed upon them by the enemy because of our intelligence and the strength of the human mind. So yes, being prepared with the knowledge that these creatures exist can help lessen the impact running into one of them has on a person. So let's look at some other encounters here, people's eyewitness testimonies on this. We're going to continue on to the next state, the state of Missouri, the home of Momo, local name for the Missouri Monster. And we're going to take a look at several encounters here. Okay, this encounter here was in Boone County in the year 2000. And it reads, I'm 27 years old now. This happened when I was about 11. I believe the year was 2000. I realize I was young. However, I've thought about this experience many times over the years and have not been able to explain what was seen that day. I was with two other people. One female who was my age at the time, and her brother, who was about 13 or 14 years old. The two of us girls were walking, and he was on a bike. We were on the outskirts of Columbia, Missouri. I'm not sure of the exact location, but I did force my dad to walk that path with me again in the days after, so I'm sure he would remember. The bike path was wooded on both sides. The weather that day was overcast, but since it was the middle of the afternoon, the visibility was fine. We were about 30 yards from where the path opened up to the lake. We were just walking and chatting, and unannounced, this creature walked out of the left side of the woods. No excessive noise, just a little bit of rustling like a deer was moving around. It then crossed the path and moved up into the right side of the woods. No drama, no growling or screaming. It did nothing to spook us. It just quietly and matter-of-factly walked from one side of the woods to the other. It did not look at us or do anything threatening. It was only about 6.5 feet tall, fairly thin, lanky almost. The best way to describe it, I find, is to compare it to an Irish wolfhound dog on two legs, without the dog-shaped facial feature. It had longer, stringy hair. The most striking part to me, and what I remember most clearly, is that its hair was gray, not brown. It was a dirty gray type color. I did not see any facial features distinctly. Its gait was long-strided, the arms were longer, and I remember they swung by its sides in an ape-like manner. The entire encounter was fairly short and unassuming. We saw this creature walk calmly across the path. No one said a word, but we all wheeled around and ran the entire way back to the house. I just remember being genuinely scared. I know I was young, but I know I saw something that I struggle to comprehend or explain even today. I don't know if Bigfoot is a real animal, but I know what I saw was not just something trying to scare us. Well, yes, Bigfoot is real. It's not an animal. They are people. And want to thank that person for posting this on the BFRO website. If this is your story, I would sure like to hear from you. If you happen to have stumbled across this video and are listening to it right now, And now we have another type of encounter. This one just ignored them and went on its way. Wasn't an excessively big one, thin, only about 6.5 feet tall, gray hair. I mean, who knows? Just basically ignored them. I guess if you're going to see one, this is the way to see it. just walk on and let you go on your way. Don't try to scare you or nothing. Before I go on to another encounter, I'd like to take a little bit of time here to encourage you to like, share, and subscribe. Make sure you tap the bell notification icon so that you are notified whenever I post another video. Also, check out the links in the description below. We've got Jeffrey Lilly's books linked below. Blessed and Cursed. Also, Stellar J and Bigfoot's River Day. That's also in the description. Do remember to check out Bigfoot Anonymous. This is the private Facebook group for people who have had encounters that wish to hook up with other folks who have had encounters. Everything that is shared on this private group stays there. I'm not going to use it as a source for material for the YouTube channel, so you don't have to worry about any of that. If folks want to have their stories featured on this YouTube channel, you should send them to bfrealencounters@mail.com. We'll be happy to share your encounters, get the word out, get more information, more facts. So send them in. Here's one from Jackson County, Missouri in November of 2015. Looks like it's a hunter. Okay. I have been hunting deer for over 30 years and won't go back in the woods after what happened. I'm going to bullet point this incident. I was deer hunting. Deer were running around the woods crazy that evening. I had a small buck run past my stand. It was getting dark around 5:30. He ran out into the middle of the field and stood there looking at the direction he came from for about 15 minutes, then ran off. 10 or 15 minutes later, I heard this large something coming through the woods. Small trees breaking and leaves crunching. I had no idea what it was. I had my back against the wide tree 16 feet in the air. The tree is wider than my back, and you can't see me or my stand from behind. It stopped right behind me. It's now dark. I can hear breathing. It was only 8 yards behind me, so I didn't move. It stood there for about 5 minutes, then started sniffing the air like it was smelling for something. Then it started to move slightly. It was dry out and the leaves covered the ground, so you could hear anything move. Then 2 loud tree knocks. I then started to get a chill down my back. As I reached for my bow, I heard 2 screams. I had my bow in hand, and my shooting trigger was on my bowstring, and I was at full draw. The screams vibrated the woods. It stood there pacing behind my tree, left to right, then stopped to smell the air again. It started to move west at a regular walk. I let off my bow, reached around the tree, clicked on my headlamp, and about 12 yards from me was an 8-foot tall, 700 to 800 pound tall black figure. It grunted when my light came on and ran along the riverbank and back into the woods. I did not see a face. I saw the back of it. I will say this. It was hunting that night. It was smelling for scent and chasing deer, looking for food. At the time, my bow was loaded with 1.5-inch expandable broad arrowhead. Yes, I was at full draw, not knowing what was going on. When my light was on and I drew my bow back again, I was ready to shoot if it came back across the stream. I know the exact yards, as I have been hunting this location for around 5 years. I bow hunt, so I need to know the yardage for arrow placement. This Sasquatch, which is what it was massive. I don't know if it would harm anyone or persons, but the power that I could see in its body was unbelievable. Yes, I was scared, but I saw something that only a few people in the world have seen. Well, I do believe there are more people than you would expect that have seen them. That's what we're finding out with people finally opening up and sharing their encounters. I'd also like to point out that this encounter that I just read here and the previous one, the folks that had the encounter did not whack on trees and scream into the night to elicit a response or have an encounter. They were just doing what they were doing when they had the encounter. Now, there was tree knocks in this encounter, but it was the creatures themselves, it appears, not the guy who had the encounter. And he was sorry that he had the encounter. So, a couple of things to think about, wouldn't you say? All right, let's look for another one here. And we have one here in Taney County, Missouri, near Branson, Missouri. Most of us have heard of that. And once again, here we are faced with the uncomfortable fact that these sightings are not in the middle of the wilderness, miles and miles from any civilization. For one, it was an encounter by a person, so they had to be around people. And for two, they're very near, actually very busy, populated areas with a lot of people for them to watch. So let's go ahead and take a look and read this story here. It says, I've told this story to numerous people over the last 16 years and have been made fun of quite often. There we go again, folks. But though I have forgotten many things from my 20s, the pictures in my mind, even the sounds of breaking twigs, everything from that night is still crystal clear. I have not questioned what we saw ever and still hold true to the fact that what we saw was nothing other than what is called Bigfoot. It was August, I believe, 1994. Ruth and Paul Henning Conservation Area outside Branson, Missouri, 1 a.m. A friend of mine and I had just got off work and pulled over at what was then the scenic overlook. A trail at that time wound back and forth in approximately 60-foot lengths as it progressed up the hill to an old fire tower. I was there, I could show you exactly where we were and where it was, but I will do my best to describe. We had gone up the path 2 turns when we heard a loud snapping sound in the quiet night. We both instantly froze and looked up. Between the 3rd and 4th path turn we could see it. A huge, large, slightly slumped Bigfoot, long arms silhouetted almost by the city lights, and open area behind it. We just stood there. Shocked, the friend I was with, after what seemed like 5 minutes of frozen still, yelled, "Hey!" And then 1 foot from it, a second slightly shorter one stood up and turned to look right at us. Then they both ran off. The running was so significant because they ran on back legs, but hunched over with long arms, and it was loud, snapping twigs and pushing their bodies right through small trees in the way. We waited a moment and then walked the trail to where they had been standing. Using a close-by tree to estimate the height of the tallest, they had to be at least 7.5 feet tall if it wasn't slumped. We heard another snap in the woods and ran full sprint to the fire tower at the top of the hill and stayed there the entire night. We didn't talk much about it, still in shock, I think. We noticed broken tree limbs and underbrush noted after coming down the hill out of hiding the next day. Smell was awful still in the same area the next morning. You could smell like a sweet yucky smell. Wow, that scared the heck out of them. The Bigfoot really didn't make any threatening actions, it looks like here. Didn't yell at them or nothing. It was just there, and then they ran off. But it really scared those two. Stayed all night at the fire tower. Waited till it got light. I think I would have too. But then in this one, they noticed the unpleasant smell in the same area the next day when they were gone down. A bunch of broken tree limbs and stuff, which was confirmed that they weren't just seeing something or imagining things. And there we go, folks. Another different type of encounter, but an encounter nonetheless where nobody banged on a tree and yelled into the night. Interesting, isn't it? Encounter after encounter after encounter without having to do that. Anyways, like, share, subscribe. Check out the links in the description below. Consider joining Bigfoot Anonymous on Facebook. We'll see you in the next one. Once again, another great story. Thanks for tuning in. Please share your encounter. Email us, bfrealencounters@mail.com. Your story is very important. We will treat it with the respect that it deserves. Also, be sure to smash the like button, share, and subscribe. Thanks once again. We look forward to hearing from you soon. Watch out for our next video. Maybe we'll feature yours. Have a great day.